All right, let's go back to calls real quick. Lisa is not a fan of Trump, obviously. Lisa, welcome to the Mike Gallagher Show. You've got the mic.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to say that nobody is above the law. And when he says that the Justice Department is being weaponized, he, with Mitch McConnell, during their term, they stacked the appellate court with over 200 judges, and 3 of those judges on the Supreme Court were appointed by Trump because he wanted to put them into the court system because he thought they would be loyal to him and no one else. He has talked about being a dictator, and he praises Putin and Kim Jong-un every chance he gets. And his slogan, "Make America Great," is stolen actually from Hitler, who had the slogan, "Make Germany Great." He is a very dangerous person. He has talked about eviscerating our Constitution. No one is above the law. I would like to ask everybody
Hey,
here.
Lisa,
why
let
would
me not wait.
anybody
Lisa, are you willing? Lisa,
Why would
hey,
somebody
will you pipe her
pay
down?
a
Will you
porn
pipe her
star
down? Will you pipe her down, please?
$130,000?
Lisa,
Why
are
would
you willing
someone
to have
pay
a
them extra
conversation?
money if
Lisa,
they
I'm
weren't
willing.
guilty about something?
What's that? Say that again, Aaron.
I said, why would anybody pay
Okay, hey, I want
porn
Lisa
star
to
right
I want
before-
Lisa to stay on, but she's gonna have to close her mouth to allow me to talk. So Lisa, I'm not trying to cut you off. We have Arthur Aidala on. Stay on because I have some questions that I want to ask you because you just said a lot of things that were completely emotional and irrational. I don't think you can back them up, and I'm willing to prove it after we speak to Arthur. Arthur Aidala, welcome to the Mike Gallagher Show. We appreciate you coming on to talk to us about this decision from the Supreme Court of the United States.
Oh, thank you, man. I'm reading it. It's actually in my hands, so I was watching it as it broke live, and basically what they did is they broke it down into 3 areas. There's an area where they're saying it's absolute immunity.
Okay.
That's if the president is doing something that's really articulated, like in the Constitution, that he has the right to do. Like, for example, like I guess appointing judges and appointing his cabinet. If he did something somehow or another that was illegal, I'm just thinking of examples off the top of my head. He has absolute immunity from that. Then there's other acts that are not prescribed in the Constitution or by law that a president does day in and day out, and there's presumptive immunity. So we're going to presume he's immune if he did something wrong or broke a law while he was committing an official act. And then there's no immunity for something he does that's an unofficial act. So hypothetically, if the president of the United States sneaks away from Secret Service, runs out into Washington, D.C., and robs a grocery store of a Snickers bar, he would not have immunity from doing that. So the real issue is that at the lower court, there was no hearing that was done. There was no proceeding. There was no witnesses who testified at this point as to what took place on January 6th, whether that was an official act, an unofficial act. It was clearly not something that is prescribed in the Constitution. So it's nothing that he has to do. So he would never get absolute immunity from that. But obviously the Trump lawyers now, they go down to the original court down in Washington, D.C., and maybe also now in Florida as well. And they can say, listen, he left office, let's say in Florida, he left office as president. One of his jobs was to preserve these records. And they're going to go back and forth as to whether he had a right to have those records or didn't have a right to have those records, protecting the national security of the country in Florida. In Washington, they're going to talk about January 6th, and their argument is stronger there because he was the president of the United States at that time. And their argument is going to be they were protecting the sanctity of the electoral system. The special prosecutor, Jack Smith's argument is going to be, no. He was being a candidate on January 6th. He was not being the president of the United States. So basically, the Supreme Court of the United States is sending this back down to the lower court for them to have a factual hearing. You know, Supreme Court doesn't decide facts. They decide law. So to have a factual hearing about what exactly was taking place on January 6th, what was taking place when the records were moved down to Florida. And this will delay things for quite some time.
Okay, that's exactly what I was going to ask you. We only have probably about 30 seconds left or so with you, unfortunately. So this is going to delay all of Jack Smith's cases. Also, this does mean, though, that Jack Smith can go on and continue some of these prosecutions at the same time. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yes, the prosecutions will continue at least to a point. Now, if this judge in Washington, I don't assume she's going to do so, says yes, on January 6th, Trump was acting in his official capacity to try to save the election and try to save the sanctity of an election, she could throw the case out under this law. I don't see that happening.
All right. Arthur Aidala, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, we'll be back. This is Carl Jackson in for Mike Gallagher. The lies the media has told. Jake Tapper does not deserve a pass. Dana Bash does not deserve a pass. And more of your calls all coming up next on the Mike Gallagher Show. All right, so obviously big news in the last hour. Trump in this immunity case. There was basically, as Arthur Aidala broke it down, and we'll get into this tomorrow. I want to read through some of this stuff and study it more myself. I don't have time right now in this hour, but the breaking news is that the Supreme Court has basically sided with former President Donald Trump. However, basically, as Arthur Aidala explained, the case was broken down into three parts where you have absolute immunity, you have presumptive immunity, and then also you would have no immunity if there were obvious crimes that took place. The example that he gave, obviously, if Trump went and stole a Snickers bar or something like that, obviously if there was God forbid, sexual assault, murder, things that are completely obvious, a president would not be immune from that. But in the occupancy of the presidency, as long as he is dealing with official acts as opposed to unofficial acts, then he would be immune from prosecution. And that should be the case, not just with Trump, but all presidents. I wish the caller that would call back, that called in the last hour, 1-800-655-MIKE, 1-800-655-6453. I was willing to have a conversation with her. Unfortunately, we had to let her go because Arthur was on the line. But I do want to address some of the things that she said that I can remember. Anyway, she called former President Trump a criminal. Obviously, a lot of people on the Democratic left, and it's fine. Listen, we live in America. You can call him whatever you want. But I guarantee you she couldn't explain what he was charged with. I guarantee you. I was just going to ask her, okay, if he's a criminal, 34 felony counts, why was he charged with that? Why has that never been done? That type of case never been brought before in all of American history. Why is it that Michael Colangelo, the third in charge under Biden's DOJ, was sent down, demoted himself basically to work in Alvin Bragg's office? I mean, give me a break. If you just take the time, this is the hard thing about politics, and it's so absolutely right. It is it's a blood sport, but it is extremely emotional. But what has made America so great, we have a lot of information, we have the freedom to read information, and we can inform ourselves. And so I wish Lisa would get better informed and just take the meanness out of her heart. She talked about Russia. There's no evidence whatsoever that Trump colluded with Russia. As a matter of fact, there was an entire Russia collusion hoax narrative that took place with Robert Mueller that ended with insider information and an investigation, for God's sakes, that said there was nothing to it whatsoever. And she still says it. That's what we're dealing with. You have to understand this, folks. This is why I don't like Republicans saying, we're going to win in a landslide. Don't say that. Work to hopefully make sure it happens. Don't say that, because you've got people like Lisa, no offense, Lisa, that are out there that are going to vote for Biden no matter what. You know why? Because her moral system, her value system is emotionally tied to Joe Biden. She can't be wrong about Trump. Why? Because it will collapse everything that she believes. So you're going to have approximately 46% of people, from what I've read, that will vote for Biden no matter what. The guy could literally, freeze on the stage, poop his pants right in front of their eyes, and still And honestly, it might be funny, but it's true. And still, he would get 46% of the vote. That's just the way that it is. And you're never going to convince people like Lisa otherwise. But I did want to have a conversation with her because one of the things that she mentioned was Russia. Yet she never mentioned Ukraine and the video that we saw online where Joe Biden was literally strong-arming the Ukrainian government. Right before their eyes, right before our eyes on video, because they were going to prosecute his son for corruption there. And if they would have prosecuted his son, they would have found out about him. She didn't bring that up. She didn't bring up the fact that Joe Biden shut down the Keystone XL pipeline. And as a result, you know who's helping to fund the war against Ukraine? We are. It's insane. It's insane because we've made Putin that powerful when it comes to natural, God-given resources and energy. I mean, it's absolutely astonishing how uninformed so many voters on the left in the Democrat Party are. It's so, one of the ladies and I shouldn't have even bothered, but I just got hot. I'm not going to lie. I'm a big fan of Justice Clarence Thomas, one of the best justices ever. And so this lady was sitting out in front of the White House when I visited D.C. last week and just had these signs up speaking over this bullhorn, microphone, whatever, just loud, obnoxious, talking about the 10 Commandments and how we shouldn't be a theocratic nation. And that's what Thomas and all these other people are trying to do to the United States of America. And how, just going on and on and on and ranting about the 10 Commandments. And finally, I was able to convince her to shut her pie hole for just a second. And I asked her, so do you think that murder is wrong? Lying is wrong? She stumbled. I kid you not. It was the craziest thing ever. She literally, I am not exaggerating, God's honest truth, an annoying liberal, big, this lady probably was a teacher. She had these big, holes in her ears. Her hair was, frizzy, different colors, wearing these loud colors, being obnoxious as all get out. And then, so when I ask her about what she thinks is morally right and wrong, she froze. You know why? Because they don't think. They don't think. They just emote. So do not assume and do not take for granted. I see headlines all over the place. Don't you dare assume we're going to win this election by a landslide. If you say so, you are doing a disservice to the conservative movement. You are doing a disservice to the Republican Party. You better get out there and you better work your butt off because the Democrats don't take anything for granted. And we shouldn't take it for granted either. You have to understand that they are dug in on the left. We better be dug in on the right to save this country. This is Carl Jackson sitting in for the great Mike Gallagher. We'll be back in a few.